And welcome everybody to episode 12 of what was formerly known as Unleash the Cragle. This is the first episode of Conversations with Cragle. If you listen to the previous episode, you'll know why I changed the name. It's just much more fitting that this is Conversations with me, not so much Unleashing me. So this episode is actually part 2, and it was done, for those who have been following the podcast, probably a month and a half or 2 months ago, due to some editing issues, some issues with the podcast file, and just life in general with the holidays. It took much longer than it should have, much longer than it will in the future to get published. I actually have learned a lot of things about how I'm doing the podcast differently, having my sound set up a little bit more uniquely to make sure that there aren't kind of cutouts here and there, and also the difference between really loud on one side and really soft on the other. So I apologize again that it's taken so long to get part 2 of my interview with JT, Justin Thomsen, and Erica Thomsen. I'm excited to bring this to you in this new year because the energy that we had in the first episode carried over. If you haven't listened to that or previous episodes, go ahead and head back to the webpage, back out of this, and go back and listen to that. There will be some context to some of our conversations in this episode, part 2, and it'll also give you a chance to kind of get to know more about JT and Erica. So again, without further ado, first episode of Conversations with Cragle, and I look forward to sharing this great info with you. Enjoy, everyone. So what challenges have you faced? You can pick, I'll give you 2 challenges each before you're married, and then your 2 challenges that you have faced as a married couple.
2 challenges personally.
Yeah. And they don't have to be, just whether it's time or whatever you want to choose with that. You can go as deep or not deep as you want. This isn't a therapy session. It's just kind of to draw out for you. Or you can pick one. Pick one. One challenge that you've overcome or faced or...
I have one, but I'm hesitant to share it.
You do it.
Share it, and then we'll cut it out. How about that? Yeah.
I'm somebody who has a very obsessive and addictive personality, and in college, in high school even, I struggled with addiction and I took Adderall for years. I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it's, my anxiety got so high it led to being prescribed Xanax, and then you're stuck on this teeter-totter of a drug use, and you feel like, at certain points you're like, I can't tie my shoes unless I've taken my medication. Right. But then I'm so amped up, I can't, I can't talk to people unless I've taken my Xanax, and it was a long struggle for me through college on that teeter-totter. And
well, we did one. I mean, cause I haven't taken either. People have always said with my ADHD I should have, but the reason I didn't was because everybody I talked to said they were on a roller coaster, and I thought, okay, whatever annoyances I do to people, the problem is I'll either not be who I am and I'll sit in a corner drooling, or I'll be even more annoying. So at least the enemy
Yeah.
And I tell people up front, the way I am.
I mean, it's difficult because you have a doctor telling you there's something wrong with you and you need to fix it by taking this.
Yeah.
And to trust yourself enough to know, no, this does not feel right.
Yeah.
And I need to stop.
Yeah.
And I really didn't stop until I met Erica, and she kind of, helped me, and she said, you're going to have to choose between me or this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was an easy choice.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I made it.
So you don't take any of the medication?
No.
And you're hesitant, but those are the stories, not that I'm trying to draw out and that, but that's life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the challenges we face. And in some ways, I think probably, and I'm not trying to push CrossFit per se, but CrossFit probably helps with
It helps me so
your,
much.
your addiction and a lot of that
There's an outlet.
anxiousness, the anxiety gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and just, to give back to you, ADHD is in my family, and I have brothers who, and not to speak for them, but I chose not to take medication because I didn't want it wearing me out. Everybody I talked to said, "Oh, it makes you just sit there crying," or and I don't want to operate that way. I have a very high functioning mind, and I know how to operate with that. I just have to learn, and I've learned over time, drink more coffee because it chills me out.
Yes.
So when people see me drinking a lot of coffee, no, for me, coffee is a sedative. Tea is what you have to look out for. If I'm drinking tea, it means I need the jump.
Yes.
And so,
I think
that, and we have addiction in my family, uncles, aunts, etc. Nothing, fortunately, but same thing. The number of times I should have been dead as a 17, 18, 19-year-old till I went in the military. Frankly, and it wasn't because of anything in family. It was from the time I left house till I went in the military at 22. I was on a road, a bad road, and it's a story I've told in some places. But yeah, addiction's one of those things. But it's reality of life.
it's so common
It
now.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to any West or college student, it's they either know somebody or they themselves.
And like
are on
70%
Adderall.
of them are on Adderall. I remember all my buddies in college would be like, "Oh yeah, we have a test tomorrow," and they would pop an Adderall at 8 p.m. and they would lock themselves up in a computer room and they would pull an all-nighter and they would study and have these elaborate notes, and then they would wake up, take their test, and then I wouldn't see them for 4 days.
Yeah.
And they probably performed worse, honestly,
Yeah.
because they're so,
Right. And I have a brother who's a surgeon, a doctor, and the prescription drugs and even the non-prescription. Whenever we think addiction, we think alcohol or hard drugs. But it's the prescription drugs that are
They're coming from doctors.
the biggest issue
Yeah.
with it. So, well, I'm thankful that you shared it because you're healthy, and yet you look back, and I was thinking last night talking to Kaylee, we were talking about Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life, the movie.
The angel,
And you think about if you didn't have a Clarence, so in some ways Erica could be your Clarence to say, hey, you need to make this change.
Yes.
What would it be? What would it be like without that? Yeah. Well, I thank you for sharing, just because it's so common. And if you're hearing it, if you're struggling with this, find a local CrossFit gym and get into it. I mean, I would definitely say,
I think honestly, your body can adapt to those withdrawal symptoms and curb them if you're going through that.
Yeah.
If you can learn how to use physical activity as an outlet, like if you can learn how to, and you've gotten so good at this, of just acknowledging wow, I have a lot of anxious energy or a lot of pent up energy, and then being I need to go for a walk. Or ahead of time knowing I have a big day, I'm really anxious about it, I'm going to make the effort to get up early and I'm going to go for a run, because it's going to bring you back down. If you can learn how to be okay, I feel this way, or I need to focus really hard on this, and being okay, how can I use physical activity? And CrossFit's awesome because you also get the social side of it too.
Right.
But even if that's not your cup of tea and you just want to go for a run, or you go to whatever you do, if you just learn how to recognize that energy and then use physical activity to regulate it, instead of being oh, I feel this way, I'm going to pop a pill.
Right.
And it's if you can just learn how to flip that switch, you're doing the same thing but in a much healthier way.
Right. I mean, you're allowing your body to do the thing it was built to do.
Yeah.
Versus us trying to do, bolt on extras or do extras that it doesn't need.
Yeah.
So, it definitely. Okay, so he went. Do you have anything? If you don't want to share,
our biggest challenge before, I think we both just had I don't want to say trauma, but wounds in our past that really collided hard when we first started dating. I think right around a year and a half of dating, I think we were pretty darn close to throwing in the towel, but I think we both were just I really love you, and I don't want to call this quits. I want to work through it. So we went to counseling we did couples counseling for a year.
Yeah.
And I think that was really hard. It was really tough to be here's me and here's all my wounds. Like, I'm pulling off all my Band-Aids and just, like, showing you them. And, like, he's doing the same. And then our therapist described it as, like, when you guys fight, you're literally just rubbing them together. And she's like, you're just hurting each other, like, so deeply. And I think that was just, like, that was really hard.
Which is a good shout out, because I'm a big advocate of, you got to look for a good counselor.
Yeah.
It's like a good doctor. It's like a good fitness coach. It's like a good CrossFit coach. You have really horrible ones.
Yes.
But if you have a good counselor, it's so necessary, because if you walk into it and you don't get those wounds taken care of, they'll come out. And I'm a big advocate that your wounds, even as a child, will come out, and they'll manifest themselves at bad times, or at times where you have, just full disclosure, as vulnerable as you are, 5 kids making a great living, fearful you're going to lose your job because you won't be able to support your family, and then you go through a divorce at 36, and bam, all of a sudden. And yet a lot of it was wounds as a kid that when I went to counseling is the best thing in the world, because I finally got to deal with stuff, 16 years old, that I held on to for 20 years. And so I'm a big advocate. Again, we're getting some really good stuff here, and I appreciate you guys sharing, because I think it's so valuable, especially early on. Shout out, if you've never been to counseling,
do it.
Schedule it. Make it a regular habit. It'll be good for you, regardless of how long you've been married, or if you're dating. Or whatever, because everybody's afraid of showing themselves, but you're going to, especially if
in one way or another.
If you get married, it'll come out. You might as well just deal with it and work through that. So
deal with it before you get married.
Cool.
And
we covered that. So I know we have a little bit of time, and we should pick up a little bit, but
we're good on time.
Don't worry about time.
We're good. We're good, but I don't want to do it all, because I could talk to you guys all day.
Well, I'm really enjoying this. And I don't.
So the thing I want to shift to for a second is, going back real quick to, so I Love It, you were on the I Love It Games team.
Yes.
In
2021.
2021. And that was with Mitch, which we've talked about with Jason. People know Mitch Stevenson from that podcast. And you were on with Mitch, his wife Carrie.
Yeah.
And they weren't married.
They were engaged at the time.
They were engaged. They were going to be getting married, because that's going to be,
right.
when I get them on the podcast, we'll have a talk about that. And Carissa Stapp, who we had on the first, she was my compensated podcast start. I only compensated her a bag of Cragle coffee. But so you got on there, but you weren't really supposed to be on the team originally, were you?
No.
You can take me back for a second. Talk about that.
I kind of had thrown in the towel with trying to compete, and that was at a time when CrossFit was going through all these changes of, like, they had the sanctionals, and everybody was kind of just like didn't know what to do, and it was a big investment to compete. And then they brought back quarterfinals, and Mitch and I did the open. I didn't really train hard up until that point, but I don't know what happened. I had a great open, and I really was able to dig deep for it. And then I decided I would take on quarterfinals too, and that went really well. I was close to a qualifying spot as semifinal, and then I think that was the point where Mitch and Carrie and Carissa came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And
because at that point, I mean, Mitch had, it had always been talked about. He'd be a great team member. He's very fit. Always right at the edge of qualifying.
He's so calm.
4 points, 5 points, 3 points, one place out. When he's qualified, but. And I didn't understand exactly what precipitated them. Maybe it was because Carrie and he were going to do it, but so it came up, and they came to you and said, be part of this team.
And I was.
You guys got that was like right about the time. So you basically, when it came time for doing, because didn't you guys do quarterfinals, and then there was
team quarterfinals
with it, and I think you had to choose, right, or Mitch would have to choose semis.
Mitch, Carrie, and Carissa all qualified for semifinals individually. And then they decided they wanted to do team and go with me, and I was like, wow, I'm so honored. Like, you guys would forego your individual spot.
But now we've talked a little bit about how anxious were you when they came and asked you. Were you anxious at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I felt good, but I was also like, holy crap, I need to get it together here and like get my butt to the gym regularly.
It's like me with a partner workout. I don't want to be the weak link, right? Yeah. And I mean, it's got to be, I would say, intimidating because Mitch is like he's a heavy hitter.
Guys, they all are.
But right, and yet the nicest. Like I think that's the dynamic between you two, especially in Carissa. I would say it has to be Hall of Fame nicest team if you knew the people.
I think that's what made us good was that like there was never
nobody ever got angry.
We trusted each other and we would love each other no matter the outcome. Mm-hmm. We knew the other people were doing their best.
Yeah.
And that kind of freed us up to not be afraid. Yeah. And not feel stressed or anxious about it. It was honestly just fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I remember coming to the gym on Saturdays and watching you guys experience the worm for the first time together and try to figure that out.
Well, our worm was different than a normal worm.
Normal worm. And the contraption of the, what was it? The
Big Bob.
Big Bob.
Yeah.
That was, the Kaylee,
the yoke.
They put together the yoke and yeah. I mean, but what because you think back that you took this team that normally teams have years together, prepped together, trained together, and you've trained together, but you trained at maybe different classes, different times. Yeah, you never did team events together. Yeah, right. I mean, until then, Mitch and Carrie had never competed in an event as a team. Yeah. Or any of you, and to not throw together, but to put together this group, and then you did really well because you guys did the qualifiers were virtual, right?
Yes. The quarterfinals were virtual.
And then semis was you guys went to
Granite
Games, right? Okay. And then you placed what?
We 10th. Oh, third.
Third
Granite
Games, yeah.
And qualified because they took 5.
We technically took second because the second place team got popped.
Oh, yes. Right. But then you went to the games and you got all the free gear and all the. You still have any of it?
Oh yeah, that's like half of my wardrobe.
Yeah. And so you went and you got to go, and it was in Madison.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing that strikes you that you remember? About it?
About the games in general?
Yeah. Or maybe the first impression when you got there and you were there. What was the first thing you came into mind? Was it that wide-eyed kind of, oh my gosh?
Yeah, it was, it's a huge production and it was cool to see, the other athletes and people you look up to and it was just...
Then you guys had a tough... If
first
I remember,
day.
The first day was
really tough first day.
Like it was very difficult, and
I think we were in like 30th place,
like 32nd.
Yeah, and to grind your way all the way back to finishing 10th in the world. Yeah, as a team, and when you see all the teams that are ahead and have been together for years, and that was really impressive. So whenever I look at the banners and that, I always think of that. I think of Mitch's journey as I followed it, having done media at various regionals and such. But what an experience that you can take away from that. That's great. Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now, and I do want to be respectful of time. I realize you guys say that, but it's 2:03 and you've got to go do stuff. So I'm going to give myself one lead in, and then we're going to pick this up. At some point, you can earn another bag or two of coffee.
Sweet.
No.
We can keep going.
Please don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're good.
Please don't worry about it.
Please don't worry about it at all.
So,
let's just
next
keep
I want to
talking.
talk about your racing. So you got into, so now you've done the games, and it's like you've broken world records with powerlifting. It's like you're a Renaissance couple. Right? Next, you're going to be selling pottery. You'll be doing stained glass windows together, and it's like you're a Renaissance couple. Yeah. So you got into, and not you, but one of the two of you got into like ultra racing, or and who was that?
Me.
Okay, so Erica got in, and when did you I mean, did you grow up a runner?
I ran track, and I just loved running. It's like why I wanted to play soccer, is because I got to run around all the time, and then I loved track. I've done 7 half marathons and 1 full marathon. Shout out to my sister for just signing me up and not saying anything, just being like, "Hey, we're doing this thing." But I remember training for a marathon, and we trained for 4 months. We ran like 500 miles, and it was really cool. It was the first thing that I can really remember, being like, I want to do this thing, and I know how much work it's going to take, like sitting there and having the whole training plan in front of me and being like, oh my gosh, like that's 450 miles. Like, okay. And knowing how much work it was going to take, and then I did it, and I put all the work into it, and then I ran the race, and it was awesome. And I loved it. And I remember feeling that, like, wow, I trained so hard for something for 4 months, and then I did it, and I was decently good at it, and I was like, that feeling felt so freaking cool. And I was like, that's great. And just, like, I'm a very recreational CrossFitter. Like, and, like, growing up being an athlete, it's like that part of me is still there. I still want something that I can feel like, okay, I can work really hard at, and then I can get a lot of satisfaction out. And, like, the way that the sport of CrossFit has grown, it's just, if you're a recreational CrossFitter, it's, you get a stab at quarterfinals,
right? Yeah,
and like your local comps and
you're
stuff.
You're saying you're a recreational, but you qualified for quarterfinals. Through the years.
Yeah, 2 years.
So to me, you're not a recreational. You maybe aren't a competitive hardcore, but I'm a recreational because I haven't qualified for age group or any of that. So I mean, you downplay that, but you are a really great CrossFitter. You're just not at the
just not at that level, and you
that's
know,
okay. That's part of that. Just comes down to that's just
the growth of the sport.
Your journey.
Yep. But, and so I felt like I just wanted that sense of that again, of like working hard towards something and then feeling like it really paid off. And
I thought, and every time I hear that, I think to myself, it would never occur to me to choose running to do that. But that's just me. I'm, not. I won't say I'm not built to be a runner. I've learned to enjoy at the gym here running. Yeah. I will still fuss openly because it just gets a reaction out of the coaches. Yep. But I enjoy it. It's good for me. It's So you did your first marathon or your marathon. When were you? How old were you?
I was 8. No, I wasn't 18. How old was I?
When your sister signed you up.
Yes. 19. I was 19 years old.
Okay. Yep. So you're 19, and then you ran, but you didn't run. You didn't run like you weren't scheduling races and that. So then you found running on the road is great, but then you got into this trail running. What was you just did your first one earlier in the year. Yeah,
so I ran my first 50K last March. I did the Chuck and Up 50K here in Bellingham, and that's the first ultra distance, so it's 32.1 miles. So you're going just about 5 miles past a marathon distance.
Through the hills? Through
the Chuck and Ups, there was 5,000 feet of elevation gain.
And how did that go?
Not great. I finished it, which was awesome. I heard from a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, your goal for your first ultra should be to finish." And my coach and I had kind of like worked and done, like, it's right in our backyard, so I trained a lot on those trails, and we were piecing together all my like training runs and the time, and he was like, "I think it should take you this long," and then I was like 90 minutes over that. So not an awesome experience, but I finished it, and that was great. That was really...
What an experience, because if you had smashed it, you would have thought, oh, this is no big deal. Yeah. The fact that you got...
Went through a lot of adversity.
I remember a couple things from the story from it. One, you cried.
I cried so hard.
A lot.
Yeah.
And 2, you were welcomed at the finish line by friends, coaches.
Yes.
So
yes, they all surprised me.
JT, Mitch,
Carrie, Gabby,
Carissa.
Carissa wasn't...
Wasn't she there?
Carissa wasn't here. She was in Montana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Gabby, so it was Mitch, Carrie, Gabby, JT, and then my mom, my oldest sister, and my 2 nieces came up. And
there's great... I have to see if maybe with their permission I'll put it on the show notes. But there is this picture of her coming in, and it's like more tears. But,
Yes.
But in some ways, I think those experiences, though, because you set goals and you realize, you know what, I didn't meet it, but that didn't stop you and go, I'm done with running. And so then you learned from it. Mm-hmm. You grew from it. And I think, again, another one I want to have is Art Mendoza.
Yeah.
Because you learned from him because of his,
previous
doing
ultra.
200 miles and having to step out.
Yeah.
And those kind of learning experiences from people of failures, just a learning experience of how to do it differently the next time.
Yeah.
And so you learned from that, and you signed up again.
Yep.
And you brought a buddy.
I did.
To the next race.
Yep. And then JT came and ran the Bigfoot 40.
Bigfoot 40, and you did that in March, the first one, the Chuckanut, and then the Bigfoot was
August.
Okay. And so how soon after the Chuckanut did you sign up? Had you already been signed up for Bigfoot?
I think we already signed up.
You were signed up?
Yeah.
Together? Or
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we were signed up together. I think I started training 2 weeks after Chuckanut or started running again. I think I took 10 days off. And
then you got on the plan shortly after that?
Yep. Yeah. It's cool. I think like the biggest thing with ultras is you have to look at every race as a learning experience. And that's like just through all the YouTubing and watching, like the greatest people do it, like Courtney DeWalter and Sally McRae and the guys, like there's a guy like Zach Bitter, like listening to their interviews, and they talk about, they're like, oh yeah, I DNF'd my first 6 ultras. They didn't finish them.
Yeah.
They gave up.
Yeah.
And now it's like they're the greatest in the world.
Right.
And they were like, oh, I learned this from this one. I learned this from this one. I learned this from this one. And then it led them on. And that's all I'm hoping to do is run these shorter ultra distances to then be as well prepared as I can to run a 100-miler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be as well prepared for us to run a 100-miler.
Good call. Well done.
For us to run 100. He thinks he's
team.
not going to run a 100-miler with me, but he is.
Well, what it also strikes me when I see the pictures, I actually looked before I came to do the interview, and I was looking at y'all's pictures, your Instagram, and the pictures of you together. And that's what strikes me with it. It's going to be suffering. It's going to be horrible, but you have it. You can do it together, and I think that would be doing this alone, which is so impressive. I mean, Art, for example, has people that are going with him, but there are times
crewing and pacing him is
maybe by himself at points, and that's a mental game. Yeah, and if you have somebody that you're together with who you know won't leave you behind, right. Right, JT?
Yeah. Right.
Erica won't leave you behind.
He won't leave me behind. Bigfoot was...
Unless they get grumpy, then leave me behind.
But I mean, I think that's what's so impressive was the fact that you guys did that. And you guys, what I noticed too in CrossFit, your running has gotten some good.
Yeah.
Like watching you guys on running events.
A lot better, You're
always leading the pack. There's always, unless Marcus is around, JT's always ahead, always leading. And you guys look so comfortable and that. And so it's led to that part of that. And so that's very cool. What an accomplishment. Can't even say accomplishment for you guys to do. Yeah. So your next race is?
Bellingham Chuckanut 50K.
In March.
Yep. Okay. So we'll run the 50K again. We kind of, our plan is to kind of run that one separately because it's so close to home. We know all the trails and so in ultras you have aid stations, and that's a big factor you have to take into place. And the aid stations in Chuckanut are very close together. Okay. So the farthest stretch you ever have without any aid is 6.5 miles. Okay. So the longest you'd ever have to go without any aid is like an hour to an hour and a half, depending on if you're in the trails or not. Yeah. So it's like this.
So you guys are going to just run the race, and whoever leads. And
like we're kind of just like, I think that one will kind of be like, if you're feeling really good and like you can take off, and like if I'm not, I'll hang back, and we'll just kind of. Yeah.
I predict that I'll take off at the beginning, and then at the end, in the last like 5 miles, she's just going to blow right in.
Yeah. I don't know how. Everybody says you know when it comes to, for me personally in anything, I don't know how to pace. Somebody goes pace. Like, act like you're going really slow, and I'm like, even when I go fast, I feel like I'm going slow. And so I have no concept when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
it takes a lot of, it took us a lot of miles to like figure it out, of being like, okay, this is your easy pace. These are your tempo runs. And then you get into trails and it's like climbing
Part of it also is, I would imagine, because you did aerobic capacity training. Did you do it also?
I haven't done the cert for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you guys got some training on it.
Yes.
And so sort of that mindset and listening to people has really helped that. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. And just listening to people in the ultra community, like, is just, it's so impressive, like, what these people...
It's insane.
It's insane. And they talk about, they're like, oh yeah, I was like hallucinating and I was blacking out, and all of a sudden I'd like come to and I'd be standing like shaking a branch like it was someone's hand. They're like, oh yeah, I'm in a race right now. And it's like, it's so cool what people overcome, and it's such an incubator of feelings and emotions and overcoming things.
I think for you never imagined you'd be running 30 miles.
15 and a half
Definitely
hours.
not.
Yeah. It never occurred to you.
If you told the powerlifter JT back in the day,
Growing
you'd be
up,
like, not a chance.
The 17-year-old JT, one day you'll do a 30-mile race.
You're going to run an ultra.
You'd be like,
right.
No way.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, let's wind down here for a second and talk briefly about come back to for a second for CrossFit, because we are in CrossFit. I love it, and it's kind of brought us together and such. There's a lot of talk about how do you help people get into the gym? How do you how do you grow CrossFit? And I just came in a conversation with Matt before we did the podcast. So you hit the button, you go in an elevator individually, and you walk in and you have somebody in that elevator for 30 seconds. Convince or sell CrossFit to that person in the 2 or 3 floors you're going to ride up with them. Why CrossFit? Think for a second, and you get 30 seconds to sell them on the idea of CrossFit, whether it's what it's done for you, what you've seen it do for others. And I'm not going to give it a lot of time, because you normally get on an elevator and boom. So 3, 2, 1, one of you, go.
It's equally as much about the community as it is about yourself. You will grow so much as an individual, physically, mentally, emotionally, but you will also gain a whole new pool of friends that you would never otherwise meet. And all of those people are here with the same goal as you, to better their lives. And they're doing it through CrossFit, and that's really cool. So,
I found this in the back seat.
that would be...
I found this in the back seat,
Okay.
so I don't know whose it is.
Oh, okay.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
See you later.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
I would say it's equally the community, but individual. Because there are the people that they're so drawn to the individual aspect of working out. They're like, I just want to go to the gym, put my headphones on, do my thing. It's for me. It's like, I'm doing this for me. And it's like, but you could also still do this for you, but with friends and with people. And you are also coming into a place with very knowledgeable coaches where you do not get that everywhere.
Yeah. And I gave you 60 seconds.
You did.
Because 30 seconds is too little. So we went 10 floors.
Yes.
So you get
10
60
floors.
seconds. Go.
I'm gonna butcher this.
Just go for it.
I would tell them, like, I don't know, it's just good for you to move your body, and this is the best place to do it, and you get this amazing community, and all my best friends and closest people in my life are, aside from family, are from CrossFit, and it's just helped my health and well-being enormously, and I don't know, it's just, there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to try it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and in fairness, I'll because I put you guys on the spot, I'll do it too. So if I were selling people when I've sold people, for me personally, I didn't know anything about CrossFit. When I came into the gym here, I had high blood pressure, high triglycerides. My glucose numbers were through the roof. My doctor was going to put me on statins, and he said, "We'll wait And I said, okay, well, I'm starting this CrossFit thing. He says, okay, let's revisit that in 6 months. Well, I waited and missed my appointment at 6 months and went back a year later after doing a year of CrossFit here, and every number was normal.
Wow.
Every number.
That's amazing.
And so for me, it's saved my life because the path I was on, I'd be on statins. I'd be in a bad way. Who knows? Might not be alive, frankly, in 10 years. And so for me, CrossFit is community, but it also selfishly is being able to play and move around with my grandkids that are now here.
Yeah.
And move around with my children and have a life, whatever that looks like, at the best possible it can be at that moment.
Yeah.
Versus just kind of waiting to die.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And so for me, that's what it is. And I don't care if you're 12 or like Baker in here at like 7
Yeah.
or you're 77. The journey starts today because your life is going to be a better quality wherever you are at that moment. It will just get nothing but better. So yeah, that's very cool. Well, we've covered a lot of ground. I feel like we ran an ultra race. Yeah, and there's so much. There's so much more. I mean, I looked at my questions here. We just kind of let it flow, but definitely definitely have to revisit because I know there's a lot more to cover.
Sure.
And a lot more to do as far as stuff. And I'm so thankful you guys, as vulnerable times we had, a chance to chat, get to know you more. I understand about you guys, and I've known you for a while. Yeah. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
We
and
appreciate
Thank you,
you.
Cragle.
And I think this is so
great.
cool.
Yeah. So that's it, everybody. I will break this into 2 parts. You'll hear one of the parts, and then you'll hear another part, and it'll be great. Be sure to subscribe, follow, share with your friends if you'd like. I'd love for you to do that. We'll have others on. We're definitely going to follow up based on maybe closer to races and that they do. You can definitely follow us on Instagram. I'm going to put a lot of links. So links to their pictures, their Instagrams. JT Fine Art. If you have a commissioned painting you want, even if you're not in the area.
Prints available.
I'll put the links to his Instagram also so that you can go grab that. Great gifts for the upcoming holiday. I have my painting hanging up in my house, but like I said, for $16,000 now, because we're at the end of the podcast, and you know more about the artist, you can buy that original first painting. So thank you again, both of you, JT and Erica. Congratulations on your short marriage and many years together of ultra running.
Great.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you,
Take
Cragle.
care, and we'll talk to you later. And there you have it. Part 2 of our 2-part interview with Justin Thomsen and Erica Thomsen. I hope you really enjoyed it. I had a great time talking with them. There's so much that we could have covered and will need to cover in a future episode with them. But again, they're preparing for a race that's coming up probably in the next month. And so we're here in mid-February. The episode was actually taped back in, I believe it was December time frame. So again, I apologize for the delays, but hopefully you enjoyed that conversation with them and learned a little bit more about them that you might not have known. Again, like I've said, the podcast is now known as Conversations with Cragle, and we'll be doing some more individual episodes, not just interviews, but individual episodes that I'll be talking and publishing about a variety of things. One of the things I did start this year, and maybe it's something you could consider if you haven't already started a New Year, not so much resolution, but a New Year plan, is I am reading 1 book a month and listening to 2 audiobooks a month. And so I'm into month 2. I've already listened to The Power of One More by Ed Millett. I'm in the middle of reading Chop Wood, Carry Water. I'm also listening to Pound the Stone by the same author. And I'm getting ready after I get done reading I'm picking up another book. So what I have is, and I'll have some fiction and some other books, but I really wanted to make them the goal of reading and listening, because I think that it will edify me, it'll help me in my own journey, and I can share with some of you some insights that have helped me from these various books that I've read. So that's my challenge. If you haven't started something, go ahead and start something. It doesn't have to be massive, doesn't have to be big. It could be read for 15 minutes. But I think that it would be really valuable to journal for 10 minutes or 15 minutes a day, to read for 15 minutes a day, and also if you're married or have a girlfriend or boyfriend, to at least talk 15 minutes a day with one another. And by talk, I don't mean what's your schedule look like, what's going on, or a fight, but just simply communicating how each other is, what's going on, and what they're feeling, just as a way of engaging. Sometimes we can go through the motions of communication, and we sometimes forget what it was like to have been courting or dating, where we were very interested in things, where we were very tuned in. And as time goes on, we just sort of allow that to kind of dissipate away. Some of that can be as you get older, as you have been around one another, you don't need to have a lot of conversations or whatever, but you still want to be connected with one another. And communication, talking with one another, is a form of that connection. So maybe you do that, maybe you do a book or something else, but choose one thing that you can begin. And if it's something you're not good at, great. Start in. And as the power of one, or the power of one more, actually, is a proper title, it's not about starting on something, it's about doing it one more time. And then doing it one more time. And maybe you fail, maybe you struggle, but that power of redoing or doing just that one more thing, that one more repetition, that one more attempt at a problem, or whatever that would be, one more phone call if you're in sales or needing to contact people. There's great power in that. And also, you'll find that there will be success when there's been failure previously, when you did it just one more time. So I encourage you with that. There's the CrossFit Open for those that are in CrossFit. That's coming up here in a few weeks. I've signed up for my 11th Open of the 12 years that I've been involved in the sport of CrossFit. And so we'll see what this year looks like. I've put myself back pretty much for the last year in CrossFit classes, learning, kipping pull-ups or really butterfly pull-ups, got stronger with the weightlifting. There's certain movements that I still will have some struggles with. Wall walks are not my forte, but I've gotten much better, and I'm encouraged to make the full effort in the midst of that. So if you're in CrossFit, consider signing up for the Open. Get in there. Even if you don't think you'll do well, you'll be surprised how well you do after you've signed up. The theme for our gym, and there are various themes out there, but the theme for our gym was by Dana Stuth, and it is do hard work. And I'll have another episode talking about this, but in essence, do hard work means challenge yourself, means if there's something you struggle at or don't do something well, or do something well, continue to challenge yourself to do one more repetition on that thing, to do those difficult things, difficult tasks, because you'll be better for it, better disciplined, better strength, better confidence, knowing that you can do that hard work. So really excited about the upcoming Open and so forth. Other than that, really nothing else going on. I will let you go. I'm excited that the next interview, we have special guests, Matt and Kaylee Lovelady, who are the owners of the gym I attend, CrossFit I Love It. And I'm excited to share that interview with you in the coming weeks. So take care. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Do one more in your life, whatever that looks like. Do one more chore, do one more task, do one more repetition, whatever it is you need to challenge yourself with, do one more. All right, all, take care. I'm glad you've been with us. If you haven't already, like the video or the audio podcast, and also like and subscribe. And if you would be so willing, share it with your friends. As we continue to grow, we'd love to share our message and interviews with as many people as we can. Take care. Talk to you soon.